In the wee hours of Thursday morning, Congress certified the Electoral College vote for Joe Biden for president. Afterward, President Trump issued a statement promising an orderly transition of power on January 20th, signaling to its supporters that his challenge to the vote is over. Now, some who had planned to join the challenge for certification, including Senators Marsha Blackburn and Kelly Loeffler, changed their minds after the day's tragic violence inside the Capitol building by a small group of Trump supporters, maybe some others as well. There are unconfirmed reports that some might have been some false flag Antifa agitators, but others were reportedly identified as part of far-right fringe movements that did not reflect the views of thousands of peaceful Trump supporters that were outside. Nevertheless, after a year of telling us not to condemn all peaceful protesters because of the violent actions of a few, that is precisely what Democrats and the media are doing. I'll not make any excuses for Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol. It was lawless, criminal behavior. Now, some are comparing the people who broke into the Capitol to American revolutionaries. But the founders were not some mindless mob who committed violence with no long-term plan. They resorted to revolution only after exhausting every other alternative. They didn't harm their own side by mindlessly smashing windows in the British Parliament. A later revolutionary protester, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., spoke his piece from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, but he didn't vandalize it. So let me be clear. I absolutely and unequivocally condemn the actions of the mob who smashed their way into the Capitol, just as I also call for an investigation of Capitol Police who shot and killed Ashley Babbitt, a female Air Force veteran of 14 years. I'm gratified to see that, at long last, Democrats are finally condemning mob violence. Only a few months ago, Washington, D.C. and many other cities were ablaze. There were riots, arson, looting, and assaults on federal buildings and monuments. And their response was to defend the mob and to prosecute anyone who stood up to them. Nancy Pelosi infamously said that she didn't care about some old buildings. It's suddenly a very different matter when one of those old buildings is the one with her office in it. Now, I'm going to stress that pointing out the other side's hypocrisy and Johnny-come-lately outrage is not an excuse, because there is no excuse for breaking and entering and disrupting the constitutionally mandated joint session of the House and Senate that was to certify, or not, the state electors. This was perhaps the one chance before January 20th that Republicans would have to present their evidence of election fraud, unconstitutionality of things that happened, and error that might have shown Trump to be the actual winner in certain contested states. It's something that needed to happen, but calmly, openly, rationally. And about Trump supporters, again, not an excuse, but let's look at how many of us feel right now. We've been treated like second-class citizens going on for 5 years. In some professions, we can't even hint at our political leanings. The blacklist against conservatives is as persuasive and powerful as the one that was used against leftists in the McCarthy era. The Ivy League elite have consistently condescended to us. On college campuses, conservatives risk being canceled, even dropped from academic programs because of some problematic tweet. The deep concerns of millions have just simply been dismissed. Even in the face of wild statistical anomalies and numerous unexplained election night oddities, questioning the results in any way is absolutely forbidden. Why, this election was perfect, we're told. It was the most secure election we have ever had in our history. Good grief, we don't have to be crazy conspiracy theorists to recognize that these, I would say, grandiose remarks as overstatements at the very least. Shakespeare might say that election officials doth protest too much. We've seen blatant misreporting in the mainstream media who prefer the false narrative that courts have dismissed every one of the Trump lawsuits because, as we all know, there is no evidence. But in truth, the courts found other reasons, such as the inexplicable lack of standing to keep from having to look at any of the evidence. When the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, does this, what's the recourse? About 70 million Americans suspect the results of this election are not to be trusted. But these people have been shut down, silenced, and banned from social media, or flagged as misinformation, or disputed for daring even to question it. The violence on Wednesday wasn't just completely unacceptable, it was downright stupid. And it was stupid because the worst consequence, not counting, of course, the loss of our 4 lives, now 5 lives, we're told, is that the visuals of the Capitol being stormed will be exploited forever used as justification to go full pedal to the metal in the quashing of the rights of conservatives. Take away their civil liberties, leftists will cry. Those people shouldn't have any say. Why, those right-wing, racist, sexist, homophobes, traitors don't deserve a voice, a place in society, or even a way to make a living. Shun them, cancel them, and forget all the video of leftists smashing and burning cities from coast to coast. We've known for 2 months that any challenges to the November election were the longest of long shots. I defended Trump's right to make those challenges legally and constitutionally, but it was never likely that Congress would reject electors that the states had already certified. Probably the best that we could hope for was that the challenges might result in what Ted Cruz called for and what I basically called for just days after the election: an open, bipartisan investigation of alleged voting irregularities so that if there was anything illegal, it would come to light. And if not, Americans could be assured that the vote was trustworthy and Biden wouldn't govern under a cloud of suspicion. Now, thanks to the unforgivable actions of some hotheads, even that hope has been dashed. Democrats may think they've pulled out a hat trick here. They've escaped an audit of the vote, Biden's victory is certified, and President Trump and all his supporters are permanently tarnished. But millions of Americans who feel their concerns have been dismissed and their voices silenced are not going to simply go away because the media try to shame them into it. Well, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel below and clicking the notification bell. And be sure to leave a like and a comment and share this video as well if you really enjoyed it, and I know you did. And if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's completely free. Well, that's it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.